Okay, here are my take on the finished product of these PVC train horns. Got the idea from Dozerboymiller. Obviously, you can see a few things different. This is a K5LA, tuned to a it's tuned, and it's got more or less an M5 mount, custom mount. If you can see from the back, not really. Yeah, it's more or less an M5. Only I've finished connecting. Like, there's a top connector. The bottom is all one solid piece. So it's the only thing different there. I did do a few things differently. Obviously, you can tell by the bells. These bells are fiberglass bells, and the fifth bell up here, I think it's the fifth bell, you can see it's just a bit smaller than the rest of them. That's more for just looks. I can still hit the high notes with it, and it's still plenty loud, so I figured I'd go ahead and try to make a different size bell for the high note, just to make it look a little better. I had a different mentality of how to make the air intake for the air distribution inside. Mine sits a little further forward than what Dozer has his, and everybody else says to mount theirs back up on the top half of the flange up here of the PVC, or the air chamber right there. I moved mine down. I changed a bit of things inside, so it's not exactly the same, but it still works just perfectly fine. I do not know if Dozer has this in his manual, but Harold Meade, I've been talking to him. He's been a great help with us. Been talking with him. He's helped me with some tough spots that we're in. But the caps back here are actually just for looks, and it helps protect the back of the diaphragm. There are air holes, so I don't build up pressure back here. Yeah, I actually think they look pretty good. I want to thank Mr. Harold Meade for that. He gave me that idea. And if Dozer, that's in your manual, obviously you get the credit for that as well. I have not bought your manual. I'm too lazy and too cheap. I really ought to, just so I can compare notes of how mine came out compared to yours. So yeah, all mine is basically plumbed up. Everything is plumbed. The only thing I have to do is I have to run an airline. This is going to get put on top of a truck for a friend of mine. Hopefully I can have this done for Christmas for him. But yeah, this is all, so far you can see, this is all 1/2-inch hard pipe. This is just for testing purposes. This is just a 3/8 line, which barely has enough air to get these to where how loud they're supposed to be. Yeah, this goes from a 3/8 and goes. This is a 1/2-inch ball valve, very nice ball valve. Got it polished up on the inside. You got your wow, this lighting is horrible. Got a couple 90s, hard 90s. This is all 1/2-inch, which that dumps into a big collector with your 5 outlets. That is the that's 1.25 inches. Most people just run a 1/2-inch line and they just tap off. These are all 3/8 lines coming off of this. I want these horns to be really loud, and with 3/8 line feeding each horn by themselves, they are very loud. The only horn that has a reducer in it, the 1/8-inch reducer, is the number 5 bell, the top end bell, because it's the one that sounds first, and it was taking away too much air from the number 1 bell down here. So I had to put an 1/8-inch reducer in there, which actually helped quite a bit. I now have all 5 bells sounding very well. But other than that, all these are running straight 3/8 inch line into them. Right now, the plumbing of the hoses, everything, this is just thrown together. I still have to primer. I'm gonna throw a couple dozen coats of primer on here just to finish smoothing everything out. I used a special epoxy. You can't really see. It's PVC epoxy to help smooth everything out. So you can see a little bit. It's fairly smooth. I can finish sanding all this up. It gives us fairly smooth and clean look to it. Then I'll just use auto body primer, which is fairly thick. Finish all that up. Yeah, the hoses are just thrown on here now just for testing purposes, just so I can make sure they all work right. But I'm going to shorten everything up, obviously, once I get it installed. And the geese have something they want to say. As I said before, these will be mounted on a truck, so that's why I have my ball valve. At least the plan is anyways. I have the ball valve mounted externally. This is going to be, it's fairly low profile. It's cutting corners pretty close when I was trying to install this, trying to get it pushed up as close to the horn as I could possible. But yeah, this ball valve is mounted externally, and I will have, I'll have a a structural support arm that's going to come back a bit, and I'm going to mount a spring right here. I already have the spring and everything, spring tension right, everything's cut out. I just haven't mounted it yet. But I'll have a spring to keep this pulled back. Probably chop this arm off about right there. But I will have a steel cable that feeds from here, and that'll feed all the way down into the truck. And I'll be going, probably put a, shut up geese. And I'll probably put a pull chain in there. A friend of mine who wants this, he likes the pull chain, so I'll be able to rig one of those up. Shut up, geese! Yeah, that's my plans there. I'll definitely try to get some after shots of that so you guys can see what I'm talking about. But just for now, this for testing purposes I don't have that hooked up just quite yet. Yeah, I've got my 1/4 inch line, tiny little 1/4 inch air line. I got about a 5-gallon air tank. Right now it's probably set about 140 psi, but as I said before, once I start blowing once or twice, it's going to get down. Well, once I start to blow, it drops it down to about 110, 100 psi or so. So, yeah, give those a few honks for you. Try and hold the camera too. Okay, that's not a fair test. I'm running out of air. Let me go get air for this thing. Okay, here's a true 140 to 160 psi. Okay, here's further detail on the construction of these things. Here's the mount, or almost all the mount. A couple of brackets to help hold the expansor chamber on. Hose clamps are a lifesaver. Yeah, that's basically the mount. The horn set right in there. I've got 2 mounting ports, or mounting bolts, built up. Yeah, right there and right there. This is a, this is very convenient stuff to have. This is like a Teflon cutting board. Actually, don't know if it's real Teflon, but sun's washing it out. And it's like a Teflon cutting board material that I used. Spent about half an hour drawing all this out, getting everything marked out, and yeah, it's real nice because it won't rot from the wood ones. I know Dozer uses particle board or laminated board, whatever. These work perfectly fine, just as long as you keep them very well painted and out of the weather. But I wanted something that, because this is going to go on top of the truck and probably not going to get touched for quite a while. I would like to know, Mr. Meade, whatever you used for yours, for your mount, because your K5 mount is pretty impressive. Kind of would like to know what you used for that. It looks like you used a giant chunk of I-beam or whatever. Yeah. A little bit more on that. Lay these down. So back, I gotta taking all this apart right now so I can start primering and painting, getting rid of all the hoses. Yeah, that's all I used. And this is the mount, the manifold mount. Yeah, I'm going to get all this cleaned up and smoothed up and painted over. That's what I'm heading to do now.